Hey everybody, welcome back to the Brand Muse interview series. I am here today with Steve Dotto. Steve has an amazing YouTube channel, Dotto Tech. You probably know it. If you follow me, I'm sure you follow him. He has 200, almost a quarter million subscribers. He's also started a personal vlog channel, the Steve Dotto channel, which I encourage you to check out too. He had 15 years of experience doing a Canadian nationally televised television show called Dotto Tech. So he's been doing the tech thing for a long time, demystifying technology for people, and he focuses on streaming content for social media. But he also writes, he blogs, he speaks. I had the honor of meeting Steve for the first time in person when we both attended Social Media Marketing World a few weeks ago. And it seems like we have a lot in common, so I asked him to come on my show. So welcome, Steve.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So why don't we talk a little bit about, what you are doing professionally right now and, what you love most about it?
Well, it's interesting. When I transitioned from traditional media, from television and radio into the online space, I had no idea what this journey was going to be. I just knew that I needed a job, and it seemed I was good at explaining technology, and YouTube seemed to be a good place to land. And so I started kind of dabbling more than anything else. But I think it's kind of fascinating how like for our generation, for baby boomers or Gen Xers, as we move into kind of reinvent ourselves, as so many of us are doing, that we don't necessarily have an end goal in mind. We just know that we want to kind of get into the new space, play a little bit, and then see what happens. And that's really kind of what happened with me. Is I continued doing what I'd done on television, showcasing how to use tools like Asana or Evernote, productivity type stuff on my YouTube channel, explaining to people how technology fits in their lives. And then I started to dabble with doing a vlog as well. I wanted to talk a little bit. Actually, I wanted to kind of proselytize to our generation to encourage baby boomers to engage a little bit more in social media. Not because I love social media. I don't think social media is great, but I think if we don't engage, that we're going to end up marginalizing ourselves, and we're going to end up suffering. Our generation is going to end up suffering. So I started my vlog to just encourage people to, to gain some skills using Facebook or Instagram and understand the value of these social networks and start to instill ourselves in those places. And in the dialogue that we had in that vlog, because YouTube is a great conversation starter, I started to recognize and hear from so many baby boomers that they were being transitioned out of traditional work, and they were starting to really struggle with what that meant. We every day in North America, 12,000 of us hit the age of retirement. 12,000. And that's a staggering number. Now, not that many people retire, but that's how many people reach the age of retirement. And less than 30% are in a financial position to afford retirement today. But we are being transitioned out of jobs. If you lose your job and you're a sales manager for a print services company and you're 58 years old, there's zero chance you're getting another job in the industry. Right. You've got to go do something else. You got to become a gig worker working for Uber or something, like driving. So it's really hard on our peers. And this conversation that I was hearing from the community kind of led me to kind of open my eyes to saying, oh, well, I can help this, because I reinvented myself in my 50s after a career in traditional media and became successful online, building a YouTube channel. And those of us that are, of a certain age that are successful on YouTube and have a following, we're like unicorns.
Yeah.
Most of the world thinks that these social spaces are for millennials, but there's no reason that that's the case. So I realize this is a really long answer to your question, but it's led me to start really concentrating on trying to grow and trying to educate baby boomers and Gen Xers as to help them understand how they can reinvent themselves by embracing social. Even if their existing career is over, they can then reinvent themselves and find purpose, revenue, a place, relevance in the social spaces that they might not necessarily be turning to.
And one of my questions I ask people is how you deal with change and how you stay inspired. And as I was thinking about asking that of you, I thought you are always dealing with change, and you stay. I mean, it's your job to stay up on change, new technology, and so in that context of staying up on new technology, how do you stay inspired within that?
Fear.
Yeah,
Absolute
just falling
fear.
behind.
The thing is, my dad passed away a few years back, but I can still remember. My dad was always the kind of the heart and soul of, he was definitely the patriarch of our family, and he wanted his opinion to be heard in every decision any of his kids made, whether it was the right opinion or the wrong opinion, whether we wanted to hear it or not. And I can still remember a dinner where my dad was sitting at the end of the table, and my brother and I were talking about a mortgage. One of us was applying for a new mortgage or changing our mortgage, and we were looking at a new financial mechanism, a line of credit mortgage, where your mortgage floats up or down based on how much money you have in the bank at the time. It just reduces the amount of interest, and it's not a super complicated thing. But I looked down at the end of the table, and my dad had this look of pain in his eyes. And I just kind of intuited. You know how with a loved one, you sometimes intuit what they're feeling? I could tell that this really caused him a lot of pain. And the reason was he didn't have an opinion. My dad had all his faculties. He never lost his sharpness. But he didn't have value to add. He didn't really understand what it was we were talking about. And it caused him tremendous pain not to be relevant in the conversation, not to be a player in the game. And recognizing this, I kind of pondered it afterwards, and I recognized the same need in myself. I want to be relevant to my last breath. And I don't believe we can be relevant if we don't understand the world around us. And the world around us is now dealing with change. Social networking, all of the political and the social and the personal impact that all of these things have on us. We have to struggle to stay up with it. And you can't. I mean, all of us are falling behind. It's just, we're choosing what we can stay on top of. But it's fear that drives me, because I don't want to be irrelevant. I don't want to be special needs grandpa sitting in the corner. We're going to talk loud to Steve because he doesn't quite understand what we're doing. Dad, look at this. Isn't this nice? There's a picture on the phone. I don't want to be that guy.
So you had a career similar to mine in a way, in the fact that I spent 25 years on the corporate and agency side, and then started my own thing. And when I came out of that, I realized that I'd spent 20 years building other people's brands and had spent zero time building my own. And so while I had an identity, it was all wrapped up in my title at these companies.
Yeah.
And my equity had been given to these companies. And so when I got out of that, I realized I had to build my own brand really fast. So, I mean, you were under a syndicated television show for a period of time. And when you went out on your own, how did you deal with that building of the Steve Dotto brand?
That's an interesting challenge. And even though I had a brand on television, it was very similar in some ways, because I was never the star of my show, even though the show was named after me. But the star of my show was always the sponsor's product or the advertiser's product that was on the show. So it was Apple or Epson or Microsoft, because they were paying to ultimately have their product showcased. And so they were the star of the show. I was the sidekick. And so even though I had a personality, I didn't insert my personality that strongly in it. And I always made sure that the product was being showcased. So one of the things about YouTube that was an epiphany for me, and it relates to branding, was for the first time in my life, when I started to publish on YouTube, I recognized that the people who watched my content were my customer. It wasn't the ad executive at the agency that I had to pitch. It wasn't you, the old you. It wasn't the network executive who I had to show numbers to and show that I was relevant online, as far as, the Nielsen's and my ratings, and, that I had to fight for my time slot. None of those people were my customer anymore, and I didn't have to deal with those guys. And it wasn't the marketing manager with the high tech company who had.
You went from B to B to B to C, actually.
I did. I went, or almost C to C, I think. But you're right.
Oh, interesting.
But it was an epiphany for me, because I said, now I can just make video that you want to watch, that I want to make. And so it wasn't even a conscious branding exercise, but it allowed me to insert me far more into what I was doing and bring my personality forward into the YouTube channel, which has been a big part of its success. I mean, the reason why the channel does well is I'm really good at explaining things because I've done it for 20 years on, I used to get paid to explain things to people. That's kind of my superpower. But then I've injected my own personal ethos and sense of humor into it as well, which makes it a unique product.
Mm-hmm.
And it was taking off the shackles of having of being responsible and beholden to advertisers, basically. That really allowed me to start branding and to develop the brand that I want. I don't know whether it's the most successful brand, but it's one that I'm comfortable with and one that I'm happy to have, myself attached to.
So when your branding was done by your television company, and when you
Yeah.
went off on your own, suddenly you had to design your own brand. So, a logo, color scheme, your thumbnails, your look and feel. How did you go about that?
I hired.
Okay.
Because to a certain extent, I borrowed from the existing stuff that was there already. When I first started the YouTube channel, I thought that my YouTube channel would be very popular in Canada and probably not anywhere else in the world because I was a household name in Canada. It really shocked me as I started to build it out that very quickly the analytics showed that my Canadian viewership was minuscule. It was the same as YouTube's general viewership. And my channel caught on in the States and in the UK and in the English-speaking world. And so now my Canadian viewership is like 8 or 9%. It's kind of what the rest of YouTube gets. But I took all of the branding and all of the color schemes from the TV show because I already paid for it and I owned it. I owned the TV
Oh,
show, so
okay.
I just kept that as I moved across, and then just kind of changed the energy that was attached to it. But then ultimately, I ended up hiring a designer who is now actually full time with the company because she had far more skills than just as a designer. And we worked on, kind of color schemes, and it was just an iterative conversation going back and forth as we kind of evolved. I wanted, we steal from the best, right? So you get that good Google Blue happening, and because it's going to work and all those sorts of things.
Yeah. So you have this is a business, right? So I mean, you're putting out an incredible amount of value around technology to all of your viewers. I was a big consumer of your channel when I was in the Evernote land, which I'm not
Yep.
anymore, but you were the Evernote guy.
I was. Yeah.
And but we have to make a living. So how have you monetized your channel? How has that come into your business?
Well, that's one of the fascinating things about this business is every one of us, every content creator I know has a different business model. None of us make money the exact same way. But the tenets that I've kind of always adhered to as far as building this business is making sure that I have multiple pillars of revenue because anyone can be, stripped away at any time. So where I make money now with my brand, with Dotto Tech, is first and foremost, I do actually not bad on YouTube ads, on the ads that run on my channel, because I skew to a much older audience than the typical YouTuber, and I also skew very heavily male in my viewership. I don't think in YouTube it matters what audience you go to, but the more defined your audience is, I think the higher your CPM will be, the higher your revenue can be off of YouTube ads, because advertisers can aggressively target the community that you have. And certainly if you are representing a community that has wherewithal, that has money, so much better. And the fact that my viewership skews over 45 and male means that, there's just not that many YouTube channels that have that great the penetration in that marketplace. So I do very well on my CPM on YouTube, far better than an average, like a beauty channel or an average vlogger might do. So that's one aspect of revenue. I also built a Patreon community. I do a weekly tutorial for 2 years, over 2 years now. I do a weekly webinar called Webinar Wednesday, where I deliver free tutorial content on, usually in productivity, but sometimes on social marketing things. And we have over 1,000 people register each week for the webinar. And what I did is I took the value of those, and they're all just kind of free. There's nothing being sold typically in these webinars. They're just trainings. I took them all and I make them available for 48 hours after they're broadcast live. And then I archive them for the benefit of my patrons at Patreon, and I also give them some discounts and some other things. But the crowdfunding has ended up being a great pillar of revenue for me as well. And we do very well on Patreon. We've got 800 or 900 people who support us on a monthly basis because
that's just voluntary giving to support you.
Yeah. And there's some perks for them, but it absolutely blew me away. It taught me about, what is that? The story of if you have 1,000 raving or 100 raging fans or whatever. It just taught me about the relationship that we can have with our community, and if you continue to serve them and listen to them and open a dialogue with them, they'll lead you to revenue. That I absolutely believe that, and that Patreon is a good example of that. I do some online courses that I develop myself, but I find that to be very hard work. Developing online courses is a lot of work, but I do a few online courses that we sell and then I also increasingly have been building affiliate revenue from products that I recommend or I can add value to. And I'm very picky about the products that I choose to be affiliates for. Yeah. And it has to be something that I trust, am willing to pay for myself, and feel I can add value. And my videos on YouTube, where the tutorial videos that I do do add value for most of these communities.
Are they sponsored? Do you get sponsored? Are you sponsored by the applications that you demo?
I can be. Sometimes it's a straight affiliate relationship. Sometimes it's a pay to play. But I don't tend to do too many purely sponsored videos, just because that's the old way of doing things. Mm-hmm. That's what we used to do on TV. Is I used to come and say, give me X $1,000 and I'll put your stuff on the air. And although that works, I just think that there's a better way, and the better way is creating the win-win. If somebody sponsors my channel, if they sponsor video, they're paying up front for the hope of performance, and there's a good chance that I'll perform. But it's also a decision made in advance of the delivery of value. If you build an affiliate relationship or a relationship based on what's my customer's success look like, and I vest in that success and I work on that, I think at the end of the day, you're probably going to make as much money, but it's going to be far easier to retain that customer and to turn them into, and I don't want to go out and get new sponsors every 3 months or every quarter for the channel. I'd rather have partners who look at me and just are there every month, year round, because I pay attention to what value they're looking for. And at the end of the day, what value are they looking for? They're looking for sales. They're looking for qualified leads. They're looking to get those. And paying, we see the backlash to the influencer community and the sponsored posts on Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And it's not that I saw that there was going to be this backlash to it, but I recognized, because I had done that game for so long in television, I recognized that it wasn't a place that I really enjoyed being.
You probably also saw it a lot sooner than everybody else saw it, because you knew what to watch for.
I saw that I could make money if I did go for sponsorship, but it was money that I have to work for selling each time, as opposed to it being a no-brainer for the brand. Mm-hmm. And most of the brands that I deal with now that I have a long-term strong affiliate relationship with are no-brainers. And I don't get me wrong, I go in and I negotiate a better deal. Like if if the average affiliate commission is going to be 20% from XYZ brand, I go in and I say, I'm worth more because I'm going to do this for you and I'm going to invest in you. So there is still a negotiation. There's still a business relationship thing happen there. It's not just signing up as an affiliate, but the thing that I concentrate on, and I think is a good lesson for anybody that's in this space, is if you think about what your partner's success looks like, and you find a way to make that happen for them, then you've got a customer for life.
Mm-hmm. So we've been talking a little bit about your success. Let's talk a little bit about what kind of hurdles you've hit in your channel, and associated with that, have there been any mentors to help you over those hurdles?
Well, I certainly had mentors, and I've got a lot of them that have helped me all along the way here. When I started in the online space, Mari Smith was somebody who I met at a conference, and she's of course kind of the Facebook queen. And she's this imposing Scottish woman that's about 17 feet tall. She looked at me. And I was just transitioning out of doing television. She says, "You're doing everything wrong." And she took me inside and showed me the world of online marketing, of what, and talked to me about what the importance of having a website and an opt-in and building my mail list and all of those basic tenets for content marketing. So she definitely helped me along the way there. And then through going to conferences like Social Media Marketing World, I met people like Sue Zimmerman and Ian Cleary and other people who are in the space who do similar types of things, that become accountability partners, or just kind of your posse that you can talk to, and you can say, I'm thinking about doing this, and they've done something similar, and they give you good feedback. So that's all been a help. The hurdles have been hiring, building your team, getting the right people on. For me, and it's a personal thing, and which I think a lot of entrepreneurs have, is giving up responsibility and trusting other people to do the things. And increasingly, it's almost become a meme, but burnout. Here's the hard thing about what we do. When I did my TV show, I worked more hours and I worked hard, but I was part of a team. I would go into the studio and I had my group around me who I drew energy from. And I had that social aspect of being part of a team, and that you don't want to let them down. And when you are down, they pick you up. Since I've been building, I just create videos here, me and my dog Farley. We basically, I just do it all by myself. I find it a lonely existence. I find that I crave a little bit more human contact. And all of the people who I trusted have been replaced by USB ports. And USB ports don't give you critical feedback. And so I found the burnout to be not debilitating, but definitely a shadow that's constantly there saying, oh, so I really, and it's so great when I meet somebody from the old industry that can look at my videos and can talk to me technically about what I'm doing and give me feedback on pace or on composition, and, just kind of talk to me about the things that a director used to do for me. Because I used to hire people to tell me what to do.
Right.
And then, of course, I don't get to do that anymore because I just kind of put it all together myself. So those are the big hurdles. And then strategically deciding, what direction to go. You mentioned one thing. You mentioned choosing what networks that you're on and what you're part of. I think that was also a big break for me at the very beginning. Was I chose YouTube not because of my brilliance, but because YouTube was obviously it's the video distribution platform. But I learned very early on that it was fortuitous to be on YouTube, because YouTube is not really a video distribution platform. It's a search engine. And it's a discovery engine. And it has facilitated my growth, because providing good quality content into YouTube, it then takes it and it honors your efforts and it amplifies your message. And YouTube has been an amazing partner. I know that there's issues with every social platform. Don't get me wrong. They're not perfect. But for what I've done, and for what many of maybe your listeners or viewers do, YouTube is an incredible platform to work on. I think a far better partner for most of us than we'll find with Facebook or any of the other social platforms.
It's interesting. And because Google owns them, everything that you do on YouTube affects your Google search. And a perfect example of that is that I did a video on what does a creative director do, right? And for some reason, I was looking for a picture of a creative director for a slide I was going to put in a different video. And so I did a Google image search for creative director. And my video of what does a creative director do, came up as the #1 result in images for creative director. So it was my thumbnail, and then followed by like 50 black and white pictures of really famous creative directors. And it's not like that video has 1 million views, but it ranked #1 in imagery for creative director. And so that is the power of YouTube and its infection of search across those platforms.
That was a good day for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It's still up there too, which is awesome.
I would be taking a screenshot of that and sharing it everywhere.
Yeah. So one of the things I like to ask people is, and you are the perfect person to ask this. And the fact that, a lot of my audience is 25 to 35, 45, who are either early, mid-career creative professionals or entrepreneurs who are just, out there kicking it. I'd like to ask people about what they do to bulletproof careers, but as a technology guru, and you are, what would you recommend to people to have on their radar in terms of technology that could help bulletproof their careers?
Okay, from a personal perspective, like
Or
making sure that you have,
your business and your content
I'll try and
production.
answer both because the first is, the end of the day, the opportunities that the social platforms give us are profound, but so are the dangers. And so I think, and it's going to sound trite, but I think really being true to your ethos. One of the reasons I've grown steadily and have a good following is because people know where I stand. They
Mm-hmm.
know the ethics behind the brand, and they know that I don't just promote a product because I've been paid to promote it. It's something that I stand behind. So I've engendered a degree of trust with my community, and I guard that more jealously than anything. I
Mm.
really guard my reputation, and I did when I was on television as well. I always guarded my reputation and defended it, and never took the easy way out as far as doing the right thing. That kind of aspect. So I would say that is an amplified issue with how much we see in social sharing. So you will get to know the people who are upstanding, and if you are upstanding in your career, that's going to make a difference. So that's number one. That's the best piece of kind of dad advice that I can give. As far as embracing technology, here is the thing. You will never be able to choose the best tool, regardless of what we're talking about. If we're talking about a project management tool, is Asana better than Todoist, or is it better? I don't know. What's the best CRM? Is Entreport better than Constant Contact, better than Active Campaign, better than Infusionsoft? I don't know. And you can never evaluate any piece of technology to the extent to make the best decision. What you can do is you can take whatever decision you make after a reasonable amount of research and make it the best decision by diving in and really embracing the technology and learning how to use it.
Mm.
From the very beginning of my business, when I first started, stopped doing television, one of the first things I did was I built my own website. I learned to use WordPress. And whereas when I did the TV show, other people did that for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I needed to know what you could do with WordPress in order to build my business. And when I bought my CRM, I bought Infusionsoft, and I learned to use it. And I learned every aspect of the tool. Now, I don't use the tool on a daily basis anymore. I've hired somebody to do that, but I know exactly what it can do. And I'm not held hostage by any subcontractors that I have who have knowledge of tools that I don't, which is a terrible place for, I think, any
Right.
entrepreneur to be.
Yeah.
But more importantly, as I build my business systems, I understand the tools that we're using, even though I'm not the one that necessarily applies them each and every day. So I
Mm.
understand what they can do and how to build those systems. So you make whatever technology decision you choose the right decision by your actions after you've purchased it or after you've invested in it. It's your actions that will determine whether or not the tool is going to work for you or not. And you should never spend time second guessing yourself. You should just spend that energy into understanding how to use the tool better. And if you have to figure out how to MacGyver some process that it doesn't do very well, then MacGyver that process and figure it out. But that's your responsibility. So that's my best advice I can give for bulletproofing yourself technology-wise.
Okay, cool. That's great advice. So when we were
I
at
like that advice. I think that's a winner.
when when we were at Social Media Marketing World, we were talking about what we actually started the interview talking about a little bit, which was the baby boomer thing. But I wanted to give you the opportunity. I didn't want to talk about what your idea is, and I don't know whether you're ready to talk about what your idea is, but I thought I'd give you the opportunity to, if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's going. We've started a podcast called Gray Matters,
Okay.
where I'm talking to baby boomers and Gen Xers about reinventing themselves. Now, not all of our colleagues are going to do that. I'm sorry I'm pretty sure you're a baby boomer, but I'm not positive.
I
Maybe
am.
Okay. So I don't want
Tail
to just
end.
classify you. Sorry?
Tail end. Very tail
Tail.
end.
Me too. I was born in '58. But so many of our peers are lost. and they've spent their entire life working in a cubicle, in a business, mentoring others, and all of a sudden to be disenfranchised from a big part of who we are, which is our career,
Yeah.
is devastating. And I think that there's more than just financial issues.
Oh, it's massively psychological.
Oh, and depression, alcoholism, suicide, all of these things, are kind of in the deep end of the pool with this, but they're all part and parcel of this spectrum that we're going through. And I don't believe that a lot of us recognize that we can reinvent ourselves at this age. If you want to, you can get really excited about a career again, and you can take the skills that your intrinsic value, and you can start to apply it in a variety of different ways. I give an example. If you were a purchaser for a drugstore chain, and you're 58 years old and you're laid off, Walgreens or somebody else isn't going to buy you. But if you're, say, a cosmetics buyer, let's say, for them. But you go to every trade show about cosmetics, you know who white labels, you understand supply chain and distribution, and you understand all of those sorts of things. What's to stop you from opening your own Amazon store and letting Amazon fulfillment take care of things and start to sell products into Amazon? What's stopping you is you don't know about Amazon, and you don't know that you don't have to work for a major company in order to be successful in your space. And even though it's not really in the sweet spot of this is what social marketing is, Amazon is a social network as much as it is.
It's a facilitator. Yeah, it's a technological facilitator.
And so if you understand how to package things and how to write a review and how to, and you certainly understand how to source product, and decide what products are going to sell, because that was your job. You still have a career if you want, or you can apply that into some other area if you. But those skills are still vital skills that you can trade into being relevant and having a career, earning income, still being a player. And I think more of us need that message, and so that's what Gray Matters is dedicated to. It's to teaching those of us, and I think that so much of our industry is focused on the millennials. No offense to all the millennials listening right now, but we're focused on you, and you still don't have the money. The money is still held by the baby boomers and the advertisers and everybody else. Once the baby boomers figure out what's happening in social, I think that there could be a gray wave coming into social. I think that we can make a big, profound impact. There's still enough mass there. There's enough critical mass. There's enough energy, and we're living longer. We aren't ready to stop. And so I want to be I want to be part of that parade of baby boomers kind of staking our space in the.
Well,
in the
I think you
media.
are obviously perfectly positioned to add value to that cohort because number one, you identify with it, but number two, you are the technology master who can make that possible for people. So I always end my interviews with one question, which is, do you have a personal mantra or a manifesto that you try to lead your life by?
I don't know if I do, other than a philosophy, which probably if you've listened to our interview up to now, you get a sense for my philosophy, which is, you dive in with both feet to anything that you do. I think we limit ourselves more than anybody else limits us. And if you just kind of are willing to kind of look past what you perceive your own limits to be, you'll end up surprising yourself. And I've had a wonderful career doing things that I never thought, if I had to go back and say, start doing a TV show from the beginning all over again, I don't know if I could do it because there's way too many reasons not to. Yet I had a great career doing that, and I'm enjoying building my career on YouTube. And if I had to start from scratch with no subscribers on YouTube, could I build to where I am? I don't know. But I know that I did. And,
you could.
And I think
I'll tell you,
you
could.
Yeah. So it's obvious you can too. So I think just and enjoying a curious mind, being curious mind is I think one of the biggest gifts that we can have.
Absolutely. So where can people find you? I announced your channels at the beginning, but where can people find you? Where would you like them to find you? Or
on all social platforms at Dotto Tech. And if you are in that cohort of Gen X and baby boomers, try and check out my podcast. It's Gray Matters. It's on all the podcast platforms. That is the vehicle that's going to drive. That's the initial kind of foray into helping our generation reinvent themselves in the digital world.
And check out his new channel under his name, Steve Dotto, which is he's vlogging more. So you're going to get some behind the scenes stuff, which I know is really important these days.
Indeed. Thank you for reminding me. I have a lot of stuff.
Well, you have a lot of stuff going on, Steve. Steve, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure. I look forward to hearing the comments and seeing this posted. So thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks a lot.